Rohit, are we live right now?
Yes, Dion, it's live.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining in today. And we have another session of the DQ Labs conversations. And today's conversation is about NATA 2022 tips and tricks to crack it. You have just about a month left. And before that, we said, let us talk about this NATA 2022 and how you can crack it within the next 1 month. Just like Sana Firdaus did last year. She was the first rank of Telangana State 2021. So Sana joined us for the crash course and she did really well. She scored a 148, which was the highest in, one of the highest in India. And we're calling her for an interview next week sometime. She's yet to confirm the date, but she will inform us and we will let you know. Before we proceed, for those of you who are not students of DQ Labs, the crash course batch has started, and the crash course batch commences from 24th May to 11th June. And we have the classroom and online coaching. There's a payment link here. If anyone would like to join, Rohit, kindly share this payment link so that people can pay and join. And for those of you who are just looking for study material, could get onto DQ Edge, use the promo code GET70, GET70, to get 70% off on our study material. So this is where you need to go, edge.dqlabs.in, to get access to the study material. And what from here is I'm going to hand it over to Umesh so that Umesh can take it from here.
Right. Thanks, Dion.
Umesh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just before you come online, let me just introduce Umesh to you.
Yeah.
Umesh is the founder of DQ Labs. He's an architect and a designer from IIT Delhi. And he has, been through these exams himself. He's mentored over 20,000 students to crack the NATA exam. And he's an excellent resource for you to listen to. We also have Meghna Iyengar, who's here, who's going to be taking the part of the webinar, which relates to the education part of it. It's great to listen to her. She too has mentored thousands of students, including Sana Firdaus, who's cracked the entrance exam last year, rank 1 student. Okay, Umesh, over to you.
All right, thanks, Dion. And welcome to all the students and NATA aspirants and future architects. I wish you all the best. It is a great career to be in. And it's very heartening to see that all you youngsters are preparing or aspiring to become architects, future architects. So, I would like to request all of you to, first of all, create an account on edge.dqlabs.in. I'm sure there must be existing DQ students and also non-DQ students. So I would quickly show you around how you can create your account over there, because there's a lot of material, a lot of some of the free stuff, past year papers, etc., are all available for you to access on edge.dqlabs.in. So this is called edge.dqlabs.in. Please kindly type in, and there's a small process. You may have to authenticate your account by OTP, mobile OTP. So kindly do that, and please come to NATA or JEE paper 2. So once you finish your authentication, you will be taken to My Courses. Under My Courses, you would have to pick up NATA JEE architecture. All right. So So click on that and say, click on visit course, and it will taken you to the this page. All right. So I'm gonna give you exactly 2 minutes to finish this activity. If you do not have the account, so kindly create an account. If you already have the account, so please come on to this page, NATA/JE architecture. And from here, I'll just give you an overview of what is there, how to utilize, how to use it for your best advantage. And then I'll hand it over to our faculty, Meghana, who will be talking about exposing you further to the pattern of NATA exam, various kinds of types of questions, kinds of questions, and how to prepare them, and all of that. All right. So, so as we wait, some of you might have already created your account on edge.dqlabs.in. Yes. So if you have already got the account, can you just say, type in, yes, I got the account, so that I know how many of you have got. You can use the chat window. Right, so this session is happening on Zoom, but also is being live telecasted on YouTube. So those who are attending on YouTube can probably use the YouTube chat option, and the students attending the Zoom can answer on the Zoom chat. All right, cool. So great, great, great. So many of you are responding saying you already have the account. Fantastic. So please come on to this NATA JE architecture page. So as we wait for the other students to
like artificial intelligence and data science.
Yes, I do.
right. I request participants to mute yourself. If you want to speak up, you can raise your hand so that we can give you the option of expressing yourself. Right. So one of the very, very important and interesting things that on DQH you will find regarding the NATA and the JE paper is, once you are in this learn section of NATA JE and you scroll down, all right, so you see a lot of modules and all that. So scroll further down and you'll see something called as syllabus heat map. This is very, very important and very interesting. So we have been tracking NATA exams since 2006. All right, we were one of the pioneers of offering some study material and mock tests in 2006. NATA started in 2006. So we have been facilitating and mentoring students since then. Now, from 2017, we have been creating these heat maps, okay, in terms of understanding, breaking down the question paper of each year and segregating those questions into respect to subjects, and basically trying to identify which subject has got more number of questions. All right, and you may not be aware, but NATA exam per se has been taken so many shapes and forms from 2006 to 2022 now. Okay, so there were times where the NATA exam can be given any number of times, and sometimes there were only a limit of 2 times, 3 times, and etc. Right, and they had sketching and the theory. Right, so and then they removed the sketching part, and then they introduced a new type of question formats and etc. etc. So a lot of turbulent activity happening on the NATA exam, whereas on the JE front, JE had been very, very stable. It had the same format, not many experimental questions. So JE paper 2 is very much predicted, whereas NATA is completely not predicted at all. Right? But it gives us some kind of an understanding if you see the kind of questions they have been asking the, let's say, last 3-4 years. So here you can see the syllabus heat map. Of course, this is for NATA, and you can also toggle to JE paper 2 and see what kind of questions, categories of questions they have been asking and how many questions they're asking. So let us focus on NATA exam. So they have a good array of topics. NATA has a good array of topics. So starting with mental ability, orthographic views, mathematics, and all the other topics. Now, what is very important to notice and see is the number of questions that they have been asking in these exams. All right. For example, in 2021, there were 2 exams that were happened. Okay. So if you see, there is no consistency in terms of what kind of topics that they have asked in terms of weightages. For example, if you see mental ability, the first paper had 23 questions, whereas the second paper had only 10 questions. Orthographic views, 4 questions in the first paper, first attempt, and 1 question in the second attempt. Okay, if there is certain amount of consistency that had been there in English and general knowledge. So almost 24 to 25 questions in English and 43 to 41 questions in general knowledge, GK. So when we talk about general knowledge, it is completely, we have segregated them as general knowledge and architectural awareness. In architectural awareness, you can see there are about 6 to 11 questions. And in general knowledge, which can be about anything that is happening around the world, GK is about 43 to 41. Okay, and physics is 5 to 7, and there are no chemistry questions. In fact, the chemistry questions have not been there in the last 4 years. So don't worry much on the chemistry part. But of course, they may always change their magic proportion in terms of what they want to ask. Okay, but as we have been noticing that there are not many chemistry questions in the past. All right. And mathematics, there was a heavy focus on mathematics in 2017, but that heavy focus has come down. Now it is about 13 to 16 questions. And what we have also noticed is they have tremendously toned down the complexity of mathematics questions. They are more practical in nature now. All right, so they are quite answerable. All right, so please go through this heat map, and similarly just go through the JEE paper to heat map as well. So it kind of gives you an understanding of see how consistent they have been with mathematics, and these mathematics questions are pretty tough, JEE level tough questions based on your 11th and 12th, and architectural awareness questions are around 11 and 12. Visual spatial ability about 9. Here the general knowledge is about 10, and architectural awareness is about 11 and 12. Okay, so there is, it has been consistent for JEE, but very inconsistent for NATA exam. That's number 1, right? And there are a lot of material that we have put up here. Okay, there are some free material, but of course, if you want to utilize the entire Edge material, you have to probably buy, and there's a promo offer that is going on. Okay, I think it is get 70. You get 70% off on the material, and it's all top-notch material. So this is a study material page where you get under learn, and what I want to show now is very, very interesting. Okay, so these are tests and exercises. So click on tests and exercises, and you see so many options here. Number 1, as an aspirant, what you have to do is definitely go through past year papers. And in fact, the NATA July 2021 paper is freely available. So please go take this test to understand what kind of questions or question types that they are asking. Okay, so that is number 1. Experience that. And most importantly, after taking the test, you get to know where you're doing good, where you're not doing good. Okay, and what topics you are in a danger level, what topics you're in a strong level, etc., etc. That information is shown, which is very important for you to plan your strategy for your next 1 month. Okay, so yes, past year papers, we have all the past year papers put up here. That's number 1. And then we have the practice questions. All right. Basically, we have sourced all these questions from the past year papers, and we have categorized them into sets. For example, mental ability set 1, set 2, set 3, quantitative aptitude set 3, set 4, set 5. So what happens is when you go into that particular set and answer the questions, you get all the past year questions related to the same same set, and then you can answer them. That will be a great practice. And in fact, I would want you to do these practice sets at least twice or thrice before you go for the exam. Okay. And third is we have these All India NATA mock tests. So these are 2022 NATA mock tests. Kindly go through. There are 2 free mock tests. So please take. I would highly recommend you to start off with the NATA strategy test, because that will help you understand where you are at this point of time. Okay, and where you have to improve your strengths, weaknesses. That kind of analysis is shown over there. But there are so many practice tests that are available over here. And then 501 predicted questions. So we have come up with certain predicted questions, the questions which have not yet been asked in the NATA so far. So there's a high probability of you encountering similar kind of a question. Of course, same question is not possible. Okay, but similar kind of a question you might get, and kindly practice all these sets as many times as possible, because the more number of times you practice, as you know, all these are objective type questions, right? So when you come across, let's say, one question which has 4 options, okay, and it's a general knowledge question, that is artificial awareness questions. The method of learning them would be that you research about each of those options that they've given. Okay, let us say one of the questions have 4 options like architrave, arcade, colonnade, and let us say a Porsche, right? So what you have to know is not just knowing the right answer of the question, but investigate what are these terms means, okay, which is very, very important, because tomorrow when you're taking the exam, you may get a term that you have encountered in your practice. So if you know the term really well, so you are eliminating one of the options, or you are choosing that option. So your probability of getting to the right answer increases by 1/4 time, which is really great. I hope you're understanding that, right? And this 501 predicted questions. And then we also have this JEE architecture mock test questions, right? So if you're taking the JEE paper 2, if you're not taking, I would highly advise that you please take the thing as well, okay? Because even the JEE paper 2 score is acceptable for many schools as well. And then of course you are eligible for School of Planning and Architecture, and then NITs and some few select schools. And I recently came across a news saying that there are 6 new SPAs that are being started. Okay, so there was a talk about that in the parliament, but then now they are actually getting it executed. So 6 new SPAs means wonderful 300 seats, 300 more seats. So you get more opportunity of getting into a national school. And then past actual papers of NATA, again for practice. And these are the stuff that you should be going through thoroughly. And the students who have done thoroughly has got a very good result, not because same questions appeared, but because they have practiced, they know that the various ways a question can be asked, and they were very well prepared. They were able to solve the questions that were asked in the actual NATA test very thoroughly. All right. So yeah, so please make use of this facility of B2H. There are some free material, and also, of course, as I said, there are some paid material. There is an offer that is going on. Get now 70% off on all across. So that's a great offer for you. And now I would like to invite our faculty, Meghana, to kindly take over the session forward.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everybody. Just a second. Let me just. All right. So, like sir just mentioned about Edge, the materials, all that are available. So, what we'll be going through now is to look through what all are required, like what is the exam pattern and what all are required for you to concentrate on for the next 1 month. Considering that you also have your boards going on. So you'll have to plan your studies or preparation in a smart way. So we'll just give you certain tips Am I audible to all?
Yes,
Yes,
Meghna,
Meghna.
you're on.
Yeah, okay. I think Shivani is facing some issue. All right. So yeah, so let's just look through certain tips and things that you have to pay attention to while preparing. So firstly, before we begin the tips and tricks, I would want to tell you about the exam dates. I think all of you are aware of the change in the exam dates of the second and third attempt. Can you all please keep yourselves muted? Yeah, okay. So the first attempt comes on June 12th. The second and the third attempt is been shifted to July 7th and August 7th. And the exam pattern, you will have 125 aptitude questions. So when I say aptitude, again, this is another question every student has, that what about sketching? We don't have sketching. So to put it blindly, there is no separate section called as a sketching section where you have to do offline sketch on a paper and submit. It's just going to be 125 online aptitude questions. Okay. Now coming to what will be in the 125 questions, that we'll discuss now. Okay. So this is for 200 marks, 125 questions. And also there is a minimum cutoff mark expected in NATA. You have to get 70 out of 200 for you to qualify the NATA. Okay. JEE doesn't have anything like that. But NATA very strictly has, you have to get 70 on 200 for you to qualify the exam. So please keep this in mind. No matter what you do, try to at least get basic 70. So 70 above only will be qualified. Okay. Now, the next thing that we'll be looking into is how we have to prepare for the NATA exam. So before that, just there are some questions that are coming in. So we'll finish the discussion, and in the end we'll have a QA session where we'll go through all your questions and answer. Okay, so just in case whoever's put up the questions, if I don't answer now, please ask the same questions in the end so that we can discuss and everybody will get it clarified. Okay, so first, to start off with, the exam pattern, like I said, has 125 questions. Now this 125 questions will include all the categories and subjects that are being that have been mentioned in the brochure. Okay, I had to mention that also. So please go through the NATA brochure very clearly. They've given a section for the syllabus, which has also been updated on DQH, okay, where Umesh just discussed. So you will find the syllabus of NATA exam available under the learn section. If you go to exam structure, you have the exam structure for both NATA and JEE put up. Okay. So now one thing for NATA, I want to clarify this. Even in the brochure, okay, it is very clearly said there is no chemistry. Okay, chemistry was part of the paper for the year 2020. So the time when COVID started, that's when they announced that they're going to include physics, chemistry, and mathematics in the paper. But that was the only year there was chemistry. After that, there were no chemistry questions asked. Okay, so don't worry about that. And even the mathematics and the physics part, like basic science or math or physics, whatever is being mentioned, it is not your 11th and 12th standard syllabus. So again, that also, please make it very clear. It is the basic concepts of geometry, basic math, and basic science that we learn up till our 10th standard. So whatever we learn till in the high school level, so that level of questions are what are being asked in your paper, even for mathematics. So if you're learning your 11th and 12th syllabus of math, it is only for JEE, not for NATA. Okay, so because you're doing it in your boards, anyways, it's going to be easy. The level of difficulty of the questions are very easy compared to JEE, the NATA paper. So I think it won't be that very complicated for you all to answer. So see, it is mentioned very clearly that it's basic concepts in mathematics, physics, and geometry. So this part, mathematics and physics, implies the basic concepts till your 10th, not the 11th and 12th standard syllabus. Okay, I hope you guys are clear with that doubt. Now, so whatever you are reading here is also there on the brochure. You can either go to the brochure, like Rohit has updated in the chat box, or you can access it on DQH as well. Okay. Now, coming to how we are going to prepare this in the next 1 month. Okay, so considering you don't have much time, so the first step that I would suggest all of you all to take is to solve a past year paper or a mock test. Okay, right now sir showed you where to find the material, so you can take up solve the, so both the first mock test is also free. You also have the July paper that is available for free. You can attempt one of them, or if you want to do it on using your PDFs, whatever means, take a mock test and get a list of topics. So when you perform, you would know on what range you're performing or what scale you're performing, right? So you would know what are the topics that you could easily answer, which topics you had to do, some 50-50 probable chances you had to choose. There would be certain topics, even though you felt that you know them, you got them wrong. Let's say, for example, you attempted a question from geometry. You thought that you're prepared, you revised everything, you're completely prepared, and you attempted them, but you still got them wrong, right? So that way you categorize the list of topics into weak, moderate, and strong. So on Edge, we actually have strategy insights that will be coming up in the same manner, but you can also do that. Okay, once you get the list of topics, start preparing as per the list that you're prepared. First priority should be given to the topics that are weak. That doesn't mean you ignore all the other topics on the whatever other list is there. You have to give equal time to both. See, if you had a lot of time, you can do weak topics first, then go to the moderate and then strong. But you just have 1 month to go. So you have to balance all three at a time, right? So the more amount of time will be required for the weaker topics. So whatever time you're going to allocate in a day for NATA preparation, spend 50% of that on the weak topics. Then the rest of the 30% can do, you can solve the moderate topics, because moderate topics are usually the ones where you're partially prepared, not completely prepared, right? Then the stronger ones, you would just need to do revision. This is another mistake. Even me as a student, I've also done this, and most of us generally do. We get into the confidence that, okay, I've completed that chapter, or I know that topic, I'll do it in the end. So that end never comes. It only comes like 1 hour before your exam. You're like, oh, I didn't revise anything in this chapter. Please don't do that mistake. Even though you're prepared with it, please keep revising it. There's nothing wrong in doing more revision. Okay. So the strong topics that you have, also spend 20% of the time. Let's say on an hourly basis, if you're doing like 6 hours of studies, 3 hours weaker topics, 2 hours on moderate. Last 1 hour, you can just revise the topics that you've already prepared. Pull out some past year questions, attempt them, solve them. So if there are any errors that you come across at that point, you can actually fix them as well, right? So please do that and follow this method throughout. Okay, this is very, very important thing that you need to remember. Any mock test that you take, not just this 1 month, any exam that you're preparing for, you're going to write, whatever mock test that you're going to take, please remember to follow this method, because all of us have this habit of doing, okay, I'm going to spend the last 10 days practicing, last 10 days taking up mock tests. But what we do, we just sit and take one mock test every day. But is there a gradual increase in the score? No idea. Is it remaining the same? No idea. We're just going through the wrong answers. We are looking at the explanations, moving to the next test. But is there any guarantee that the same question will be repeated in the paper? You don't know, right? The chances are very, very low. So how are we going to improve? What is the result of you taking mock tests on a daily basis? So the idea of mock tests is you understand the concepts that you got wrong. See, I agree, the same concept related question will come, but not the same question, no? So going through the explanation is not going to give you the much, the clarity that you need. So identify what concept you went wrong, fix them. Okay, so to put it in simple terms, this is what I call it. When you do a mock test, try and figure out what errors and mistakes you're making, fix them before you move on to the next test. Okay, so in this manner, every test, the number of topics that you're putting into the error category should actually reduce. By the time you reach the 10th mock test, you should not have anything left to learn. And your score also should gradually start increasing for every test that you take. Okay, so follow this method. I think it should help you guys out. Okay, so when you so how you have to spend time on the weak topics or moderate topics, like how we showed on Edge, we have categorized the past year questions into respective subjects. Like we have collected all the past year questions from VSA, put it together. Mental ability, you have topics put together. So when you're practicing them or when you're preparing them, you can actually concentrate on those practice sets and practice them. So you don't have to go back to the basics and learn. Considering that you don't have time, you can directly get into the practice zone itself. So while you're practicing, you're also learning, you're doing additional practice, and you're improving yourself for the next test, right? So start following this method. I think it should really work. And all those who already have access to DQ Edge by now will know we have the strategy insights that always get displayed after the mock test that you take or any test that you take. Stick to those insights that comes up, clear all the red cards, then do the orange cards, finally stick to the green cards. So this way, if you follow, I think 1 month should be enough for you all to do well in the NATA exam. Okay, so the next thing that we'll be looking into are the type of questions that are asked in the NATA paper. So which is clearly mentioned in the brochure also. So you will have 6 types. So the last 2 types that you're seeing, fill in the blanks and match the following, this we figured out only after the paper was released last year. Okay, so this was newly introduced in the paper. It was not part of the brochure. Brochure clearly said the first 4 types: NAT, MCQ, MSQ, and PTQ. So you will have numerical answer type, multiple choice, multiple select, and preferential type. Along with that, there were also questions in the last year's paper from fill in the blanks and match the following. So what I've done is I've collected certain questions, certain examples of all these types. And so I'll be giving you inputs as to what topics you can, expect in all these types, like what kind of questions can be asked in them, so that when you're preparing, you can accordingly prepare. Okay. Okay, so I'll just answer this one question. There is no drawing, ma'am. No drawing. I said JEE has drawing, but not NATA. NATA will just be online exam, 125 questions for 200 marks. Now, is calculator allowed? No calculators allowed. Please, okay, this also, I was anyways planning to say this. Please make it a point, every single calculation that you do it on pen and paper. Don't use your calculators, even for JEE. Scientific calculators, basic calculator, nothing is allowed. And also, I'm sure they will provide you an A4 sheet, a rough sheet for calculation and all that. If in case the invigilator doesn't provide, you can always ask them in the exam hall. Nobody can deny on it. Okay, so because you're doing mathematics and all that, they will always provide you with a rough sheet. Okay, you can ask and take it, no issues. Maybe they won't allow you to take it out, but they will always provide you with a rough sheet. Okay, even for JEE also, you can ask them. All right, so we'll start with the NAT question. So numerical answer type is basically where you are expected to enter the answer. So what happens here is you don't have any choices, right? So that itself, sometimes takes us out of surprise, because options will always help us to at least do some guesswork, or it will give us some kind of assurance saying that, okay, your answer is somewhere around here. The option is there, which means you're going in the right track. But that won't work out here. You will have to enter the answer. So that's first point. Second point is, especially for mathematics related questions, I'm saying, in case if you come across math or any math topic, okay, not just geometry, percentages, or let's say speed and distance, whatever kind of questions that they ask, always make sure if you are coming across decimal values in it, okay, stick to rounding off the decimal to a certain digits. Now, let's say your value, you have to substitute some value, some decimal value. You're starting off with rounding it off to 3 digits. Let's say you're doing 3.142. So if you stick to that 142, so you're rounding it off to 3 digits after decimal, no? Your final answer should be provided in 3 digits. So anywhere in between you come across any decimals, throughout you have to round it off to 3 digits only. You can't do, okay, I'll take 3 in the beginning, then I'll use 2, and then I'll do 4, then I'll do 2. That won't work. It will vary your calculations. Okay, so if you round off your decimals to 2 digits, stick to 2 digits throughout till your answer. 3 means stick to 3. Okay, and when you're entering also, do the same format. Don't change the decimals. Okay, next thing is the units. Whatever units are there, sometimes I don't know how the online option that they are going to give you to enter the answers. If text is also allowed, please enter the units along with your answer. So if it is 100 kilometers, add kilometers, km, if it is allowing you to do. If not, by default, it is understood because of the question, it won't be an issue. But always just check if you can add letters. If so, please add the text also, whatever units you're calculating in. Okay. Now coming to what kind of questions, like what topics the questions are asked, majorly you will, it's very obvious, math questions. Okay. It can be percentages, time, speed, distance, calculating the length, area, volume, all these. Okay. Secondly, visual questions, counting related. Okay, it could be counting the surfaces, like counting, if they can give you 3D objects and ask you to count the number of surfaces, that would be one. Other type would be to count the shapes. Okay, now here whatever you're seeing is to count the number of squares in total. They can also make it in a different way, not necessary it has to be a proper shape, asking you to count the parallelograms, triangle and all that. It can be like very random. Like imagine you take an A4 sheet and you just keep scratching on it, like, you know, you just do straight lines and slanting lines and different, so it'll look very messy, you know. So they can give that image and ask you to count the number of lines, right? So counting is one type of question. Then quantitative ability I just mentioned. Spot the number of differences was another thing that we came across in the last year's paper. Okay, so one separate section which actually took all the students by surprise was observation type of questions, which is this, you know, we have these questions where the image shows up for 30 seconds. You're supposed to observe whatever's there, and followed by the image, you will have 2 or 3 questions asked. So now by looking at this image, it will come for 30 seconds and then I can ask you how many lines were there, what was the color of the square, or what were the total number of questions in the image. So there are 125 questions here, or what was the, you know, total XP points. So these are all things you grasp by observation. Under this section, there were questions put up regarding spot the differences. You know, Times of India paper has the spot the differences section, no? So similar to that, 2 images were given, 30 seconds, you have to look through and answer how many differences were there. Okay, and these questions were asked for 3 marks. All the observation related questions were asked for 3 marks. So there were 10 questions, 3 marks each. So totally for 30 marks, they had to answer this. Okay, so that is another type of numerical answer type question. So for all this, what do you say? So when it comes to quantitative and geometry, of course, the you know, formulas and all that matters. When you're doing a counting of figures, see, one tip that I would give when you're doing counting of figures is always stick to the order in which you're going to count. Okay, see, don't just look at what is given and just count them and say, okay, this is the total number. When you have the options, you'll at least get a hint. So if the total number of squares options are all starting above 30, you would know the answer has to be above 30. But because you don't have the options, if you just feel there are 10 squares and you will enter 10, right? Always remember, counting should go from a format of smaller to larger. So here, how many individual squares do I have? Count them, write them down separately. Then when you actually put 4 small squares together, you get the bigger one. So because it is squares, I'm explaining it with respect to squares. The same applies to triangles, straight lines, or any shape, any geometric shape. So put the individual ones, write them down. Sometimes when you put 2 together or 3 together, it will form the bigger shape, write them down. Then go to the next level. So that way, when you start counting step by step, you will not miss anything. Okay, so last square that you count should always be the outer circle. Or if it's a triangle, the last triangle that you count should be the outer triangle. So this is the technique that you need to use in order to do counting. Same goes with, so when you're doing surfaces, okay, 3D solids, always remember the side that you cannot see will be counted as one flat surface. Base will always be counted. Whichever view they give you the object, base will be one surface and the other 2 sides that you cannot see will be one flat surface. So include all this in your counting questions. Okay, so all these questions that I'm showing you here are available on Edge. Okay, they're part of the April and July paper. You guys can see through. So these are few questions from quantitative ability. So now coming to quantitative ability, of course, they've not given a lot of questions, like not from all the topics, but But generally, when we say basic math, okay, aptitude level, that is the quantitative ability, topics like time, speed, distance, time and work, ratio, proportion, then you have percentages, average, profit and loss, simple interest, compound interest, so and age related questions, okay, all these will fall into the category of quantitative. Even probability, okay, so when I say probability, not your 12th standard, 11th, 12th syllabus, the basic probability, okay, so all these topics will come into quantitative ability. So in case you all the study material again are available on Edge, you can go through them. If not, if you're doing it on your own also, please pay attention to these topics. See, I'm not saying all these questions were asked. We don't have any guarantee whether they will ask or not, but it's always good to be prepared, okay, because they have left it incomplete saying that it is basic math, so you should be prepared with these topics, okay. All right, so this is related to mensuration, finding the length, basic Pythagoras theorem. So they've twisted it. So this is another thing. When you're also learning the concepts, please look through your past year questions and learn, try to get or understand what type of questions are being asked. Okay, see what makes any kind of aptitude test difficult is that the concept that you learn is always the same. If it is simple interest was P into R into T by 100, it is just that. That is a formula that we are going to substitute or apply. That is not going to change. But for us to realize that it is a simple interest question, we have to substitute the formula of simple interest is where the trick is. So you have to first read, understand what formula you have to use, and then solve it, right? So that is where it gets difficult. That's why we keep suggesting you to practice more. The more practice you do, you will understand the different types of questions that can be asked for one single formula. So you will start getting, the first 2 or 3 questions, you might find it difficult, but the 4th one, you will also start thinking from that perspective, right? So that's why we suggest you to do more and more practice. So I think it will be helpful for you also. So please do as much as possible. Now they've given you the width of the building and the length of the building is 2 units. Now, there might be some people will end up doing this mistake. So I'm telling this so they're asking you to find this length, no? So we are supposed to calculate the length of the inner space, not the outer space. Some people will do this mistake also. They'll count this. So from here it is going, this rectangle. So they'll start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there are 2 here. So 9, 10. Okay, and here again you will count and you will end up applying Pythagoras theorem, so the value will not match. Remember, inside is the right angle triangle, not the outside one. Okay, these are all minute things you have to pay attention to. Okay. Yeah, so these are again percentage related quantitative. So when they do quantitative ability, they always tend to mix the mix 2 or 3 concepts. Now I can ask you a time and work related question with ratios in it. I can ask you a percentage question in profit and loss. Or so as you can see here, they've asked you the percentage for the increase in area of rectangle. So they are including the concept of area along with percentages. This is how quantitative ability works. Individually, you learn the formulas, but the questions can always be combined, like 2 or more topics can be combined when they put out the questions. So please don't skip anything. Even if you're skipping, please be prepared that there is a possibility. Let's say you're planning to skip percentages. There is always a possibility that percentages will be part of some other question or some other topic. So you have to know that. Okay. Okay, now coming to multiple choice questions. So majority of your questions will be multiple choice. Okay, and the questions that comes under multiple choice will include your basic science. Now so basic physics is what they had mentioned in the brochure, right? So what we have noticed last 2 papers, both the attempts that we saw last year, the questions were like very, very basic science that we learn in school. You can either call it like proper basic science, or you can also call it as, how we have this subject called as EVS. It is like a combination of social science along with physics, chemistry, biology, everything put together. So those kind of questions you can expect under physics. Even that, there were exactly 5 questions asked, not more than that. Okay, 5 questions from the physics or basic science, whichever category you want to call. There were 5 questions from that. Okay, so that's the one part of MCQ. Then you have reading comprehension. There were around 20 questions from reading comprehension. 4 passages. Yeah, 4 passages, 5 questions each. So sometimes what they do is when they give you comprehensions, they also tend to include grammar in it. So using the passage as a reference, they might ask you some idiom related question. Like there might be some idiom in the passage, so they could include that. Or they might give you some grammar related or antonyms, synonyms. So basically English will completely be covered in that 20 to 25 questions that they ask. So you can't say it is only going to be comprehension. They might include grammar also. So here actually I've mentioned about grammar. So I'll show you one question that was there relevant to grammar. Yeah, so this was one. So they had given you the beginning sentence and then the end. So you had to arrange these 4 in an order. Now, when you're actually putting together few sentences to form a passage, you need to know, like grammatically also it should be correct. And when you put them together, it should make sense, right? So for this, having grammar knowledge is important. So when I say grammar, it's not like they'll ask you active, passive concepts or past tense, present tense, not that way, but just the basic knowledge of, English grammar. Then you have reasoning. So reasoning kind of includes mental ability, which would be like all these seating arrangements, blood relation, direction, distance, or series sequences, all these questions. And then you have statement assumptions, statement conclusions, all analytical reasoning, analysis related. So all these would fall into the category of reasoning. Puzzles, arrangements, all these. Okay, GK and architectural awareness, of course. So GK also, they tend to ask a lot related to architectural terminologies and Indian monuments, and all these concepts are very vastly seen. Okay, paintings. So again, see, these are all common concepts that are put together for NATA. Now, last year 2 papers, we saw these questions under MCQ. But there's no condition that they have to ask only MCQ under it. So you can expect them in any of the format. Okay. And then VSA, visual spatial ability, see mirror water images, or you can take orthographic views. Then again, development of surfaces like paper folding and cutting. So all these will be under MCQ. Okay. They can even give you counting figures in MCQ. It's not like they can't, but majorly these topics, you can expect them in MCQ. Okay. This is a reading comprehension question. So out of like 4 or 5 questions that were there, I've just pulled up one question as an example here. So as you can see, from 31 till 50, all the questions were reading comprehension in the paper. Okay, for July paper question this is. Then this is an example from GK and multiple choice. So like how Umesh mentioned in the beginning, this is a tip that I also personally tell all the students. Whenever you're doing any kind of GK question, so whether you get it right or you get it wrong, you know that this is the correct answer. So it's always, good to look through why the other 3 are wrong. Okay, let's say they ask you to identify give you a painting and ask you to identify who the painter is. Now the 4 options, they could be people from different streams, not necessarily all 4 should be painters alone, right? So if you identify, okay, this person is the correct painter, you need to know who those 3 are. What if you get some other question where you end up getting one of those choices? So you would know, okay, this person was there in that question, he is so and so, so he is not right, or he is the correct answer here. So that way it helps you. So it's like a chain reaction how it works. So from 1, you end up learning a lot more. So for every question, if you start following this, you don't have to actually sit and Google and research for a person, right? So this will lead you to what you need. And please start maintaining a notes for GK or architecture, whatever it is, because these are all so vast that you can't memorize or by heart in 1 month or like 10 days. If you have notes, like if you write them down, it'll help you remember well. Okay, so please do that. And this is again orthographic view related question. So they have included, so they sometimes they also include like shadow concepts when they ask you the view and all that. So it's a combined thing, like how I said for quantitative. Similarly, visuals also, you'll get shadows, views, or they give you 2 views of 3D object, like one object has been cut and they give you two different views and they'll ask you to count the number of surfaces. So all these different types of questions can be expected. Brands and logos. So this was also part of the paper last year. So they one is they might include color concept. Okay, they might ask you like color theory related questions by giving you the image of a logo or mentioning some brand, or they will ask you to find the odd one out. Again, so what happens is with this, as an example, I'll tell you. Now, this is a very simple thing about Google. They're asking you related to color scheme. There was another question. It was not part of architecture paper, but I think it was part of UC paper. I'm not sure. They had asked to arrange it in the order of, what do you say, order of launch or whatever hierarchy. So from the time it started, now what is the current logo? So they had to arrange it in an order. Okay, so they gave all the images, so you had to put it in an order. So that is another way of asking logo question. Next thing is a very direct one. They might ask you to, what do you see? Identify the brand by looking at the logo. Color is also done. The next thing that they would do, they'll give you like 4 or 5 logos and they'll ask you to match it with the stream that it belongs to. Now, for example, they could give you one logo related to petroleum thing, one related to, some brand, some accessory. So what matches to what? Like a match the following type. So concept. So when I say learn about logo, it's very easy. So I'm just saying one term, but what all are included in that one term, you need to know. So that's why I said refer to the past year papers to get an idea as to how the questions are asked. Okay. Again, this is a visual question under MCQ. These are aptitude like reasoning questions. So this is about seating arrangements. Here you have analogies. Next comes MSQs. Now MSQs are something that you have to be very careful. You will get full marks only if you mark all the correct answers. Okay, so when I say all the correct answers, now here the question they've asked is for 4 most important principles, right? So let's say I mark first 4 as the correct answer options according to me. Now out of these first 4, if 3 are correct and 1 is wrong, even then I will get 0. So you have to choose exactly 4 and all those 4 has to be correct for you to get the full marks. If not, it is 0. Fortunately, there's no negative marking, so you won't have any negatives, but multiple select always works in this format. How much ever options they give, out of that, whatever number of correct answers are there, you have to opt for all of them correctly. No incorrect options should be included. There are no partial marking system. Multiple select works in this pattern. So please be very careful when you're attempting multiple select. And another thing, I'm saying this now itself, because there is no negative marking, please kindly attempt all the questions in the paper. Okay. And also the order of you attempting the questions, first start off with the questions that you're really prepared with, like that you're comfortable with, and then move on to the moderate level question and then move on to the difficult ones. Okay. You will always have the option of moving around between the questions, like how you have it available on Edge, I'm pretty sure. So you can just look through, read through the questions and then do the ones that you are completely prepared, that you are confident, and then do the others in the end. Okay. So this is about, again, so what kind of questions are asked under multiple select? So they ask a lot of questions related to design principles, okay, and then building elements. So they can give you a particular building or a monument given, and they can list out a lot of materials that can be used in that and ask you to choose out of them. And sometimes orthographic views, there is no negative marking. Orthographic views also, they could give you different views of one single object and ask you to identify, okay. So these are all the type of questions that you can expect under multiple select, all right. But like I said, very important point is to note that you have to choose all the correct options, okay. And this is another example of multiple select. So they had asked to identify the 4 most important structures from the given plan. So you have to read the plan and choose the important structures that are part of it, okay. Okay, next comes the preferential type question. So this is something completely new, which was introduced actually in 2020 due to COVID. When they eliminated the sketching part, they kind of included PTQs. So the point of PTQ is that here also you have the option of multiple select, but the difference between multiple select and PTQ is that now, like I said, they asked you to choose 4 options, right? So you have to select all 4 to get full marks there, or it is 0. But in PTQ, depending on the choice that you have made, you will get partial marking. Okay, so that's the difference between preferential type and MSQ. So in preferential type, depending on, now they are asking you to select 3 main built elements. So not necessary that all the 3 that you select should be correct. Whichever 3 that you're selecting, if if there are like 1 correct answer or 2 correct answers, then you will get some partial marking. So that is the preferential type questions. Okay. All right. So here, this was actually a question that, under PTQ, even I noticed. So the question is for you to indicate 5 most important visual design elements. Okay. But the correct answer given just had 4 correct options. So the answer key had given only 4 design elements here, but they had asked you to opt for 5. So if the 4 options that are given here have been selected, then definitely you get full marks, right? So if not, depending on what you have selected, they'll partially give you the marks. That's how PTQs work, all right? So I'm like reading the last 2 attempts of paper last year, there were around let's say 4 or 5 preferential type questions, okay, not more. And another thing, okay, this is also another thing. So you guys were asking if sketching is there, like sketching is not there and all that, no? So what they do, I don't know what NATA actually had planned, like how it is going to work, but I mean what they had decided to do by taking out sketching, but they included those concepts in theoretical format. Now, for example, I remember there was a question where they had asked to identify the perspective of the sketch. Like the sketch was given, you had to identify the current perspective, like 1 point, 2 point, 3 point were the options. And we even went through, like there is a possibility where they can give you a PTQ where the sketch is given, a proper sketch that has been put out, and ask you to identify the errors in the sketch. Okay, so this also could be another format. So don't just go into the zone where sketching is not there. It could be incorporated as a theory question also. Okay, so they test you in that zone as well by giving you theoretical questions, not just by asking you to sketch and evaluating those sketches. Okay. Ma'am, we can select all. No, you can't. I think this was also another thing that in 2020 students actually came up to us and told in regards to PTQ. So when they say you have to select 5 options, it restricts you to 5 options. You can't select more than 5. In fact, even in DQ, if you take up the test, you would know if the correct options or the number of options expected from your end is 4, you are allowed only to select 4. You can't select more than that. Okay. Now comes the fill in the blanks. Okay, so fill in the blanks, like I said, was not actually mentioned in the brochure, but they did ask these questions. But what was even more surprising is the questions under fill in the blanks were all, puzzles and riddles. Now, very simple, like how we have all these forwards and status that comes up on Instagram or WhatsApp that everybody puts up. Those kind of basic riddles and puzzles were actually pulled out as questions on in the paper, in the actual paper. So there were around 5 to 6 riddles, and each riddle was 3 marker. Okay, so please practice these questions also. So of course, like again, coming back to the same point, on Edge, we do have these practice questions, but if you guys are doing it on your own, please pay attention to them and go through them as well. So you will definitely find riddles and puzzles online. So please practice them. Because if in case they do ask it again, they're all 3 mark questions, so you can't afford to lose the marks, right? So please go through them. And another important point, generally, as far as what we have seen so far in the paper, they're all like 1-word answers. Okay, it's not like sentence type. They give you 1-word answers only. When you're entering the answer, please be very careful as to what answer you're entering. It has to be very clear, no spelling mistakes and all that, because what if it doesn't, consider it, you will be losing 3 marks. Okay, if there are like sentence type of questions, then please enter it properly. Don't make any grammatical mistakes also. Okay, if at all, if there are any questions related to sentences. Okay, lastly, match the following questions. Again, this was part of July paper, not in the April one. So July paper, they had given you, so these are all different architecture from different places in the city. This was one question. So you had to match the given image with the state. The other one was actually related to languages and the script. So left hand side, they had given different languages. Right hand side, they had the letters from those languages given, the scripts. You had to match them. So that is one. And there are questions where they can, again, logos and brands can be made into match the following type. And paintings and the cities they belong to. Or another question actually related to painting is they had given the paintings and they had asked to identify the type of paint used. I think I've added that. Yeah. So as you can see, watercolor or pencil. So this is, so any concept that you learn can be reframed into the respective type that you're seeing here, right? So please make sure that you're, you're learning according to what is expected. Like especially GK and all, you need to know what kind of question can come from a simple painting that you're learning or a simple monument. It's not just the name of the monument that they would expect you to know. They would want you to know the state, what material it is built with, what color it is, where it is, or which year it was from, who built it, everything. Okay, so these are all some basic requirements when you're learning any concept, which if you know, well and good. If you don't know, take reference of the past year papers to learn them. All right. I think I'm done with my end of tips. Umesh sir, if there's anything that you would like to add on from your end.
Right. So thanks, Meghna.
Thank you
For a good overview of the kind of questions that are possible in the exam. And I have been seeing a couple of questions that have been asked by the participants. So many students wants to know if they can go back to the questions or answer the questions later. So just before the exam, like a week before the exam, the NATA organizers will give a sample mock, okay, for all of you to experience, especially to experience the test interface. All right. So I would want you to experience that, and that would be exactly as what the actual NATA would be. I don't want to give you certain information here because each exam they keep changing how they are organizing. There were days or there were times when once you answer a question, that is gone. You cannot go back to that question. but whereas certain exams had interfaces where you could go back to the previous question. So we do not know 2022 how that interface would be. I would want you to wait till they release the mock paper, online mock paper. Okay. So how do you access this mock exam with 2022 pattern? It will be available on nata.in. So also when you register with NATA, they will be sending an email to you saying that, okay, there's a specific mock that is released, kindly access it to experience the test, how it will be. All right, that's number one. And Neela is saying, sir, I have registered myself for first, second attempt, but now after the changed dates, I want to change to second and third attempt. Is it possible to correct the registration form? So Neela, kindly send an email to NATA. Okay, so you can find their email contact information on the website. Kindly send that and request them. So sometimes they accept, sometimes they would not be able to accept. So you just have to try your luck with that. Soha is asking, do we need 75% marks in both for School of Planning and Architecture? Yes, yes. As for School of Planning and Architecture, you would require 75% minimum marks in your 12th. That is a requirement from the School of Planning and Architecture. Yes. And you should also have a good JE paper to score. Okay. Is calculator allowed for the exams? So again, I would want you to wait. So they will not be able to, they will not be allowing a physical calculator, but if there is a calculator that will be online, but I would request you to wait for the mock to be released so that you can experience all of that. Okay, and I don't think you would be requiring calculator. They will not be asking complex questions, especially NATA will not be asking complex questions. It will be simple math related questions, so you should be able to easily calculate them. Okay. Okay. So Aditya is saying in the NATA new pattern section in the DQH website, there are certain questions whose answers are in the form of theory or paragraphs. Does NATA have questions where we must write paragraphs as answers? As Meghna has shown in some of the fill in the blanks, they are puzzles or riddle based, and they are fill in the blanks, and the question ends with explain how, right? So which means that you may have to give a explanation, like a paragraph explanation, right? So it's quite possible. Lekisha is asking, what are the expected dates for the announcement of results for NATA and JE paper 2? The NATA results could be announced in weeks or 10 days of time, because it is all online and the evaluation will become very fast. So that would not take much time. Okay, but JE would take time. So generally they take about 1 month after the JE main results are announced. So that is the pattern that we have observed. So the math, physics, chemistry results are announced. After that, about 1 month of time, they will announce the paper 2 result. What drawing supplies can we take for JE paper 2? Aware that there is no sketching for NATA. Very good Shreya question. So you can take the standard material like the different shades of pencils, paper stubs, color pencils. Do not take the watercolors, but use crayons or color pencils. Okay, so those are the materials. In the site h.dq.in promote, in the mathematics section, it is a mixture of both NATA and JE syllabus. Is there any way we can access only NATA syllabus? Yes. So if you go to the edge.dqlabs.in, and so when you say mathematics, here the mathematics is all the 11th and 12th based mathematics. All right. So once upon a time, it used to have both this syllabus is valid for both NATA and JEE, but this is currently for JEE paper 2. Now, if you want to access the NATA based quantitative aptitude, please scroll down to see quantitative ability includes quantitative mathematical topics for NATA. Okay, so kindly go through all these topics. So they have the basic concepts, etc., and then the practice quizzes. So that should be giving you enough practice for answering the questions.
And also, sir, if you can go to the mathematics section.
Yeah.
Okay, so any topic you take, just 1 second. So if you can see under sets and relations, it clearly says JEE paper 2.
Yeah.
So similar, so that is another difference that you can see. So
Alright,
if
so
there are
the-
any topic under mathematics, it is clearly segregated as JEE paper 2 and NATA. So shares and partnership is for NATA, mensuration is for NATA. Again, at the bottom, you have geometry for NATA. So that
Geometry
way,
for
you
NATA.
can just
Yeah.
pay attention to that to differentiate.
Yeah, so that way also you can access them. Okay. Rajita, may I know what is the top college for architecture? School of Planning and Architecture and CEPT Ahmedabad. These are the top colleges. Shreya is saying, can you take eraser and scale? I would not prefer scale, but yes, you can take eraser. Okay, so whatever you do, please draw freehand, even in JEE paper 2. Okay. Can we take oil pastels? Oil pastels would recommend you to stick to color pencils. All right, so not oil pastels. Soha is saying, are the 75% board marks also required for CET and NATA? No. That is not a requirement for CET and NATA. It is only a requirement for School of Planning and Architecture and no other. What are the top colleges in
Umesh?
Chennai? Yes.
Yeah, Umesh, if I can interrupt here.
Yes, please.
In terms of carrying materials, okay, what students can do is they can carry the materials, but at the center sometimes they allow those materials in, sometimes they don't allow. So even though there's a recommended list as per the brochure, they can consider taking it in, and if the center allows that, then they can use it.
Right. So, yeah, that's the thing. Okay, what are the top colleges in Chennai? So, probably we can answer this kind of a questions in a later seminar. We do important colleges to consider and etc. All right, because I don't want to give you a premature answer saying, okay, this college is good, and then you all hurry up and applying for the college. The college selection is a kind of a detailed process. Okay, in fact, we also help you doing the college selection. So, in fact, we'll be having 2 more seminars. Number 1, first seminar will be on what to do in the exam, right? So now we are talking about what you have to do before the exam, preparation. So we'll be having one webinar just before the exam, where we will be talking about how you strategize your time in the exam. All right. And the third seminar would be on what colleges you look for and you apply for. All right. Yeah. So Dion is also saying that you can contact with our Chennai studio, DK Labs Chennai studio, and they will be able to help you in the selecting the best colleges in Tamil Nadu. So once you get the scores, what do you do? Question by Shreya. So once you receive your NATA scores, you have to apply to your respective state CET cell. All right. For example, if you're in Karnataka, you have to submit your NATA score and your 12th score to the CET cell, and they will give you a ranking, special ranking for architecture, and based on that, the counseling happens. So this kind of a CET cells are available for each of the states. So you have to apply in each of the state, and then they will give you the state ranks. Pramod is saying, sir, I missed the registration for JEE phase 1, so I am willing to apply for phase 2. So when is the registration open for phase 2? Kindly check the JEE website, even we are not aware of that information. All right. There are many questions related to what are the top architecture colleges in Bangalore and these kind of colleges. So I would recommend that if you can, Aparna, if you can just contact us on 959-100-1000, we will help you. So these are more, we cannot generally say that, okay, this college is right or this college is wrong, because there are so many parameters that you need to consider. And a college which is right for you may not be right for the other students. So it is a little detailed than just saying that, okay, it's like SPA. SPA is, of course, is a national institute. Okay, that is one of the top institutes that anybody can aim for. Okay, right. So one last thing I would like to inform that the architectural awareness questions that they ask. So we have a detailed section of architectural awareness wherein we have information that is for design aspects. Architect to go through their and understand these materials. Okay, for example, we have got all these visually documented for your easy understanding. Okay, so for example, what is Amalaka? So they may ask what is Amalaka. So if you're not seeing an Amalaka and if you don't know what it is, then it's very difficult for you to answer. But once you go through all these terms and terminologies, it becomes very easy for you to eliminate the answer options and go and pick the right option. So there's a lot of material on DQH for architectural awareness. Please go through them thoroughly. All right. Okay, let me see if there are any questions. Please ask options where you can practice, get exposed to, and learn. Okay, so please subscribe to that. Aryan is asking, what is the cutoff for CEPT Ahmedabad? The CEPT Ahmedabad cutoffs are really high. You need to have a higher NATA score and also higher board score. And of course, if you're applying through the JEE paper 2, then you need to have higher. So higher the better. I would not, because the NATA scores keep kind of fluctuating, the higher scores keep fluctuating. I would suggest that if you get a score above 150, all right, so that would be a good score, and 95 plus in your boards would be a very good board score. So if you have that kind of a scores, then you can apply for CEPT. Okay. So last question, for top architecture colleges in Bangalore through Karnataka CET or Comet K, what must be our approximate score in NATA and 12th board? For Karnataka, for the top colleges, your board score should be more than 90%. All right, and then that is through Karnataka CET, and then the higher the better in your NATA score is better. As I said, if you get more than 150, then you have greater chance. So similar for Comet Key. All right. So with that, I would like to hand it over back to Dion. So Dion, if you would like to conclude the session. You're on mute.
Yes, Umesh, I'm sorry, I had to move out somewhere.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going from somewhere else. But yes, thank you all for joining in today, and it's been a pleasure. As discussed, DQ Labs and you are still interested in joining in a crash course team, and we will get you our what T70, and you could get 70% off on the DQ Edge study material. And And yeah, so feel free to connect with us at any point of time. 959-100 have centers all across India where you could connect with us. Thank you so much, Umesh, Meghna, and the entire team. And thank you to the students and parents who participated here very actively, and we're very happy to help you out. Thanks once again. We'll be ending this webinar. Yeah. Bye.